Everyone remembers their first James Bond. Whether it was Sean Connery's suave accent, Pierce Brosnan's charm, or Daniel Craig's bruised, quiet intensity, Bond always leaves an impression. He's not just a spy, he's an icon. Dressed in a sharp tuxedo, cool as ice under pressure, always knowing more than he says. For over 60 years, James Bond has defined what it means to be smooth, smart, and unstoppable. And he's always been one very specific thing: British. But lately, a new question is starting to echo through the world of pop culture. What if the next James Bond is American? At first, it sounds completely wrong. Bond is a British treasure. He's part of MI6. He drinks martinis, drives Aston Martins, and says things like "old chap." That accent, that walk, that polite but deadly attitude. It's as British as Buckingham Palace. So how could a Hollywood actor take on one of the most British roles in film history? But let's hit pause for a second, because Bond isn't just a British spy, he's an idea. He's someone who represents strength, calm, mystery, and deep emotional pain, all hidden under the surface. He's a man who has lost a lot, trusted little, and still walks into every room like he was born to survive. Truth is, that kind of man can come from anywhere, and many American actors, talented, grounded, emotionally raw, have been playing characters like that for years. So why not consider one of them next? Think about it. Today's world is different. Bond's missions take him across the globe. His enemies aren't just communist agents or Cold War spies anymore. He's battling cyber terrorists, betrayal inside, the system and weapons buried behind tech screens. The world is global now, and Bond needs to reflect that. His accent might change, yes, but his core doesn't have to. It's not the Britishness that makes Bond iconic. It's the way he holds everything in: the heartbreak, the years of loss, the regret, and still keeps moving. He fights without showing fear. He blends into a crowd, but always stands out. He's broken, but never completely shattered. That's not about where you're from. That's about who you are. And many American actors get that. Deep down, they've already played those kinds of characters. Some fans may not know this, but the very first actor to play James Bond on screen was actually American. In 1954, long before the big-budget films began, Barry Nelson played Bond in a TV show version of Casino Royale. It was a quiet moment in Bond history, and it didn't last, but it proves one interesting thing. Even way back then, creators weren't afraid to experiment, and now, maybe it's time to do that again. Movie fans today are more open than ever. They've seen Spider-Man played by 3 different actors. They've seen Batman reimagined again and again. Thor became a woman in the comics. The audience embraced it. The Little Mermaid was black, and Barbie was everything. People care less about what the character used to look or sound like, and more about the feeling that character gives them. Can they inspire? Can they move us? That's what we hold on to, so let's imagine it. Bond steps out of a sleek car. Not in London, maybe somewhere in New York, LA, maybe even Paris. He looks sharp, but he's got that world weariness in his eyes. He doesn't smile much, but when he does, it's disarming. He's not showing off. He's observing, planning, surviving. His voice is calm, controlled, maybe American with grit, but not arrogance. He orders the drink. He makes the move. Then says the line, still cold, still confident. Bond, James Bond. And you believe him? Because it's not the accent that matters, it's the weight behind the name. Now consider the kind of American actors who could pull this off. Not just anyone. We're not talking about muscle and flash. We're talking about depth, quiet power. Men like Michael B. Jordan with that inner fire. Jake Gyllenhaal, who can unravel emotions without saying a word. OscarIsaac.com, but dangerous. Actors who don't play the hero, they become the hero. With all the pain and shadow that comes with it, Bond, after all, isn't someone who loves violence. He's just someone who's very good at it, because he has to be. And that part of Bond. The loss, the loneliness, the soft moments between the action. American actors can get there just as well as any British one, and sometimes go even further. That's why this conversation matters, because it's not just about casting. It's about who we think Bond is, deep down. And maybe Bond is less about where he's from and more about what he's been through. Of course, there will be those who say this can't happen, that it would break tradition, that Bond must stay British for history's sake. But history isn't a cage, it's a starting point. And the best stories evolve. They take risks. They surprise us. And if they're done with respect, they last even longer. Daniel Craig's Bond was different too. He was colder, angrier, more wounded. He made Bond bleed, cry, even fail, and that's what made him unforgettable. He helped prove that this character isn't just some charming guy in a suit. He's a human being, caught in a system that asks him to do the impossible again and again. And that made people feel for him. So maybe the next evolution isn't about losing the essence. Maybe it's about digging even deeper into it and opening the door to someone who wasn't raised in MI6, didn't speak with a refined accent, but still knows what it means to fight, suffer, and keep going. That's the kind of Bond people can believe in today. Not just polished, not just patriotic, but real. And if someone can carry that weight truthfully, maybe where they were born doesn't matter so much after all. So here we are standing at the edge of a new era. James Bond has meant many things to many people over the years. A national hero, a global icon, a weapon dressed in style. But at his core, he's always been a man trying to stay one step ahead of the world while never fully escaping his past. And maybe now, it's time. His past stopped defining his future. If you really step back and look at where the world is heading, where movies are heading, it becomes clear the next Bond movie can't just be more of the same. It can't afford to feel like a copy of something that worked 20 years ago. Legacy isn't about repeating the past. It's about rewriting it to make it matter now. And that's where casting an American actor, maybe even one from a background we've never seen in the franchise, starts to feel less like betrayal and more like evolution. A step forward, not a break backward. Because global audiences aren't just changing. They're everywhere. And they want to see themselves in the story, not just the setting. Imagine this. A new Bond film starts in South Africa, or Brazil, or Hong Kong. The voiceover is calm, reflective. It's Bond, but it's our Bond now. He's not rolling out of a noble British bloodline. He's not being trained at Eton. He's someone who came from struggle, survival, loss, maybe. He's recruited through a secret MI6 outreach operation, someone with raw skill, shaped by American intelligence, but now taken in and refined by the British dot, given the number 007. His mission. Larger than revenge. Bigger than politics. He's not fighting for a country. He's fighting for what's left of his soul in a world where power never truly cares who it destroys. That's not about being British or American. That's about being human. People have already seen Bond beat up bad guys on trains, seduce spies in high-end hotels, and survive helicopter crashes without slipping a wrinkle in his tux. What audiences want now is meaning, substance, emotional weight. They want to understand the man beneath the gun, and America, its flaws, has plenty of storytellers who know how to show pain, pressure, and pride all in one glance. Look at the way someone like Coleman Domingo commands a scene haunted and poetic, sharp but soulful. Or Oscar Isaac, who brings smoothness, strength, but always a sense of memory behind his eyes. Even someone like John David Washington, who carries both charisma and control, has that Bond silence. the silence that holds everything together. When the world around him is falling apart. These are actors who can make you feel something long before the script tells you how. And for Bond, that's everything. Because Bond stories at their best are built on loss, on love that ends in violence, on trust that turns into betrayal. From On Her Majesty's Secret Service to Casino Royale to No Time to Die, the emotional fallout is always the one thing he can't escape. So the next Bond should carry those ghosts. 2, maybe not with a British accent, maybe without the expected background, but with the heart of a man who's seen too much and keeps trying anyway. And just imagine what that version of Bond could unlock creatively. New settings, new supporting characters, a new MA, new Q, a storyline that's less about empire and more about empathy, less about Western power and more about human connection. It could be a Bond that asks who we trust in a world when trust is gone. A Bond where technology is the villain. Where manipulation isn't just physical, but psychological, or at the battlefield. Isn't just overseas, but inside the mind. That Bond doesn't care where you were born. He only cares if you can handle the mission and survive it. That's the type of Bond story the world is asking for now, one with color. Perspective. Depth. This doesn't mean erasing what came before. It means expanding it. We don't lose Connery. Brosnan, Craig, they paved the way. But legacy only lives if someone is bold enough to carry it forward in a new direction. Same name, different journey. And for those who think making Bond American would ruin the brand they've missed. The very thing that kept Bond alive all this time, reinvention. Every actor who put on that body brought something new, something the last one didn't. Maybe the next step isn't about making Bond look or sound familiar. Maybe it's about making him feel more real than he ever has. And yes, this would be a risk. No doubt. But go back and watch the interviews from 2005 when Daniel Craig was cast. People were outraged. He was too blonde, too rough, too cold. Now, he's many fans' favorite Bond of all time. People resist change until they see what's possible. So maybe the question isn't, should Bond be American maybe? It's what if the best version of Bond just happens to be American? Because cinema is no longer local, it's global. Bond isn't just a British hero anymore. He belongs to the world. Sold-out theaters in Shanghai, Lagos, Rio, and Detroit cheer for him just as loud. He's woven into pop culture everywhere. It's only fair the next person to wear that title reflects the people watching. Because the truth is, the accent doesn't make 007, the choices do. The restraint, the pain behind the eyes, the willingness to jump, even if it means falling. That's the Bond we want. That's the Bond we need. And if that version of James Bond introduces himself with an American voice, but all the right heart, we'll still believe him. We'll still lean in as the words echo once more. Cool, calm, timeless, Bond. James Bond.